Hi, my name's Kate Kaufmann, and I want to welcome all of you to World Childless Week. And I'm delighted to be here again with my dear buddy Catherine-Emmanuelle Delisle in Montreal. I'm in Portland, Oregon. And Catherine-Emmanuelle, is this our fourth or our fifth year of getting together?
I think it's our fourth.
I think it's fourth. We'll have to do a big shindig next year.
Hmm.
But yeah, and so I want to take people who are here into the background of how we do what we do together, because we come together in advance of World Childless Week and talk about what do we want to talk about, and we don't usually have a really clear place that we're going, and then all of a sudden something will happen, and it's like, whoa, that is a rich topic. And so when we were speaking about this, I was so unprepared to hear myself talk about the setting of my childless journey
Yeah.
and then to hear yours about your childless journey.
Yeah.
And so we decided that this is what we're going to talk about because everything happens in a setting of some sort. And if we don't know where we are, then we don't know where we are. So and for those who don't know her, Catherine-Emmanuelle Delisle is a therapist, and she has for over a decade now hosted Femme Sans Enfant from Montreal. And I met her. This is what else I was realizing. I met you at the Not Mom Summit. I believe it was in 2015. So next year is a big deal for us because I will have known you for 10 years and you
Oh,
are so special to me.
and to me too, and I've got the goosebumps. Oh my God, time flies.
It's true.
And here is my friend, Kate Kaufman, the great Kate Kaufman. Oh, so you know now that we met at the Not Mom. Kate is also an author. Would you like to tell the title of your wonderful book, Kate?
Oh, thanks. It's called Do You Have Kids? Life When the Answer's No. And in a nutshell, what it does is it traces all of the elements that we go through our lives with friendships, with family, with health, with all kinds of things to all the way to what we leave behind and what our legacies are. So it has been an amazing journey. And I'm thrilled that the book is doing what I needed it to do. And I'm getting really nice responses from other folks as well.
It's amazing.
Okay, enough. So
Ready for this, Kate?
yeah, I'm ready for it. But can you talk about what popped up for you when we were talking about what's the setting of our childless journey and why does that matter?
Actually, what came up for me is that because I always work with images, like when I talk to clients or when we talk together, images come up and evoke more precisely how I feel about things. So we were talking about where our is taking place, and we were talking about different settings, right? So we were saying, well, is our grief like a wall, or do we feel like we're in an aquarium, or is it more like a tower? And for me, I know that it felt more like I was in a tower. So, what does the tower evoke for me is total isolation. And let me explain more what I mean about that. And for people who don't know my story, I learned at 14 that I was experiencing early menopause even before puberty. So it felt so weird, so isolating. I felt so profoundly different from the other girls of my age. Uh, Interacting with them was weird. Interacting with my own body seeing my own body that was not transforming, and seeing their body that were going through so much changes. And then the tower also evokes the fact that I felt at that time that I couldn't talk about it. So might as well just climb up the tower. Oh, and don't forget, close and lock the door, and just climb up those stairs and look at the windows and feel like, my God, this is so weird, and nobody's ever going to understand what's going on, what's happening to me. So for a long period of time, I chose to stay in that tower because I didn't know how to cope with that. So that was for a period of time, I could say that the setting of the beginning of my process towards grieving. Because at that point, I didn't know actually I was grieving. I only thought I was just reacting and just suppressing. But actually, this is part, the shock is it's part of the grieving process. So yeah, so basically that was the beginning, the setting of the beginning of my journey. And how
Did you know right away that you were in a tower, or when did you become conscious of being in a tower?
well, I didn't become conscious. I didn't name it like that before we had our talk together, actually. Like the image popped, like all the knowledge was there intellectually of what I had experienced, but I didn't. It's like I didn't put a picture on it, or I didn't. There was no picture sticking to it, evoking precisely the feelings I was living at that time. Yeah.
Gosh,
So
yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful image of what you were saying about feeling different, about feeling alienated, about, okay, they're all changing down there and I'm not. I mean, it makes sense to me because I know you mentioned that when we were speaking, but that you were up and you were away and you were surveying all this way that life is happening around you, but not in you.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Phew.
Yeah, that was quite, when I look back at it. Whoa, it's quite a journey I opt on without a choice. Actually, life just decided for me, and then that's the way I found that was the best way I could deal with it at the time, to climb up that tower.
Of course, you were a young woman. My goodness.
Yeah.
Not going through the rites of passage that, we consider are just going to happen to everybody. No, not so. Yeah.
And I don't know why I feel like, whoa, the spotlight has been too long on me. Can we switch to you? And I would love to know, what was the setting of your grief, and did it evolve? So maybe we could start by the first setting. If I'm sure there was change, maybe not. Maybe.
Oh, no, mine was very, very different. It was like it took me a long time to discover what I had erected to protect myself. It took me a really long time, and to come up with the image. And the reason why we're talking about this is for both of us. It's so powerful and so distinct based on our experiences that, yeah, we did have to construct something because we were growing in a way that, and certainly for me, what I did, I didn't have a tower because I didn't have a vision and a view of what might come. I was married for many years, and we tried to conceive, and it was unsuccessful. And that was I considered myself a failure. And in that process of going through it, I didn't feel like I could confide in anyone. I didn't feel my family, my friends, there's maybe one or two people who knew just the slightest bit of information about it. Um, but so I had this feeling of angst and removal from the world. But until, and this was only maybe 15, 20 years ago, I came up with, and I'm in my early 70s now, but I came up with this picture that it felt so true, is that as I was reflecting on different periods and different ways of coping with the grief, I was erecting a stone wall,
Yeah.
and I was the one who was putting down these stones and bricks and holding them together. It was my way of creating a safe space and
Mm.
a literal boundary that I could hide behind.
Mm.
And once I realized that, oh my God, it created a language for me to be able to talk to some of my child-free friends. It created a way for you and I to have some interesting conversation. And ever since doing that, one of the things that was a breakthrough was just spending time with that wall and picturing it. And I must say, the emergence of the metaphor of the wall and the imagery of the wall came up when I was working about not having kids with now she's 90 years old, my friend Anne. And she was the one who asked the questions that guided me through what was in my way.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was she basically had not the keys go into your locked door, but she had the sledgehammer or something that just allowed me to even see that this was a wall. She asked about the imagery. I'm only now am I remembering this is where it came from.
Mm.
And the power of it was I got to go to the edges of the wall, or I got to jump up and look over the wall and see that, oh yeah, there's other stuff happening there.
Mm.
And so I started like poking at the wall, pulling little shards out of the wall and looking through. And I feel like we're getting a little woo-woo about this, but it started to create for me a way of building my own vision for my own future, which was just confused and disoriented and utterly alienated.
Would you say it's because listening to you, I was thinking, was that the wall of shame or is that too strong?
Oh, no, no, no. I think that's it was a wall of shame. It was a wall of protection. It was a wall of, I mean, it was a literal boundary. It was kind of a security, but once I saw it, it's like, wow, you have some choices. You could go around this way or that way or up over the top, and then you can come back if you want to. You can dismantle it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then that was the moment of, whoa, okay, okay.
Wow. Is that when you decided to come to the Not Mom, or do you remember what came after that discussion with your friend? I'm just
Well,
intrigued.
it was a it was a series of conversations. So we would both sit with it and then we'd come back and speak again, which created this beautiful openness and maturing of our friendship. She is an amazing woman that I will cherish forever. Um, but I kind of lost track of your question, because I was thinking about my friend for a sec there.
Oh, your friend.
Yeah.
Oh, the question was
Oh,
what
shame.
what led what came up after all these discussions. Is that what I ask? Is that did you decided is that what led you to decide to participate in events with childless women like the Not Mom, or did it what did it created in.
Oh, it created the pressure that I needed to do something, but I didn't know what to do. And yet I had done enough reading that I knew that there were a whole lot of people like me, but nobody was talking about it. And this would have been in the mid 90s, maybe. Um, and so to answer about the Not Mom Summit, I was reading the New York Times and it popped up and I'm like, what the heck? I have to be there. And Karen told me later, I was the very first person that registered for it. It's like, I am going to Cleveland.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
quite
Yeah,
amazing.
and that was a huge change. But I know we're trying to set the imagery of the setting and the power of it before we go to then how did we heal? Because
Yeah, of
because
course.
the Not Mom Summit was healing,
Yeah.
so healing and just revolutionary for me. And I'll always be grateful to Karen.
Mm.
The building of the wall, the power of even seeing it as a wall was that once I could see it, and once I realized that there was something going on behind the wall,
Yeah.
that was the impetus for me to little by little, but with this energy behind it, accept the fact that I had to stop protecting myself. And I remember one of the first things I decided was I don't have to go to baby showers anymore. I can just not be available for baby showers. I didn't ask anybody. I just did it. Or probably somebody mentioned it. I don't know. I don't know where these thoughts come from. But
So it looks like you just went on new grounds. I don't know if you dismantle this. Would you say, did you go around? Did you go up? Did you dismantle this wall? Or,
oh, it took me a long time to even
yeah.
approach the wall
Uh,
because that was the shame and that was the fear. And then I realized, I don't know when it was, but I realized, okay, wait a minute, isn't keeping yourself behind a wall that there's something on the other side of, isn't that the epitome of a victim posture? And I was sitting in a chair on the other side of the wall. I mean, that was very clear. I was like, and that made me a little bit, it was shocking to me. And I usually get sad before I get angry, but in that case, I got angry with myself, so throw some more shame on it, that I built this wall. And I don't want to live my whole life behind this wall.
Mhm.
And I like to plan. And so then I looked at, well, what do I need to do? And how about you? What did you
Well,
carry?
I think we came to a bit of the same realization. For me, it was like, okay, I've been alone in this for so long. So at one point, I just realized I cannot continue like this. Like there must be
J'en ai marre, huh?
j'en ai marre, oui. Donc, je peux pas, I cannot go on like this. It's not working. It worked for a while, but now it's not serving me. So that's when I decided to climb down, go down the stairs of that tower, open the door, and I guess I started a hike to find people like me with this, I don't know, you call this, this
Yeah, yeah, headlamp. Yeah.
headlamp, because I'm a hiker. I love to hike. And at first it felt like I was in the dark looking for women like me, back in the days, 10 years ago. Like, there was nobody talking about childlessness. It was extremely taboo. But I don't know why, but I felt a great determination to go ahead and walk and go and try to find women like me, even in the dark. So, and then I think once I got out of that tower, it was over for me. Isolation about childlessness was over. But still, I have to say, if I'm totally honest, that in my personal life, it was still a challenge because I noticed that I was still self isolating when I was having issues about other topics in my life. So I had to take care of that because this was a well geared mechanism.
Mhm.
Well, in place, because I had started that way of dealing with pain years ago. But now I had to learn to stop to isolate myself with my pain and start to show vulnerability and not be ashamed about being a woman that cannot procreate. This doesn't mean I'm not a good person. I'm not, deserving of love. So this had to be all unpacked, and but walking towards other childless women really, really helped me in my grief and this hike that I decided to take even in the dark nights. And you know what? There's another image that comes up because it's kind of like I knew there were other childless women in the world. Like, like when you look at stars and you just gaze at them and you just say, "Oh my God, I, I'm wondering how what kind of sky they're seeing in China, or what kind of sky they're seeing in Europe." And you
Mhm.
get this sense of there's probably tons of childless women in the world, and it felt to me like they were represented by these stars, like up above me in that walk in the dark, because it was like that really when in 2010, 11, 12. Yeah,
What a cool image. And like I'm just struck by you're looking at the stars and you're wondering about other childless women around the world. And odds are, since there's so many of us, that there is somebody looking at that same star at the same time that you were feeling the same way that you were.
exactly.
And
Yeah, this is the profound intuition that I had, and that kept on carrying me through my action, my activism,
mhm.
having that faith that there were certainly other women suffering as much as I was somewhere, and it was the time to go and try to meet them and try to talk about this and try to, while talking about this, slowly transforming this. And I'm just, I don't want to be, I don't want to discourage women, but I just want to be frank about that. It took a lot of time for me to grieve. Like, it took years. And this doesn't mean it's going to take you years. Like, it took me 10, 15 years, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you, because remember, there was nothing when I started grieving on that journey. And now there's like multiple resources, mainly in English, but still there are multiple resources available and therapists to support childless women, and therapists, knowledgeable therapists about that topic. Um, so, but it's worth it's worth a walk. Surely we're worth the walk, because I've met extraordinary humans from across the world in this journey.
And that's what I find so inspirational about your work is you stepped out there so early and just you were so frank about it. I can picture where you were on the stage. I can hear your voice speaking. I can picture the two women I was sitting next to at the table. And it was like, wow, if she can tell her story and that 3 days, hearing everybody's stories was just amazing.
Yeah, it was. It
And
was.
now, we're talking about this during the time of the U.S. elections, and to have a brouhaha about did the vice presidential candidate have IUI or IVF, and it's like wow, this is super cool that we're, it's on that level of stage and the whole cat lady thing.
Oh yeah,
And it's just it's pumping us all up.
yeah,
And it's okay to not be able to act on your pump upness, until you can. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's kind of like if you're sitting in your chair, pretty soon, your butt gets numb and your feet start to swell. And so then it was like, okay, I got to do something. It kind of doesn't even matter what I do
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
And then that hint of that there was something else out there. And I will say, again, this is an evolution. And one of the things we don't get to know is how long it's going to take each
yeah.
of us to feel whole. But you and I have spoken about this. I feel whole now. I still feel twinges and creaks and stuff. But man, I wear my not having kids on my shoulder. It's on the bottom of my emails. It's there. And I like to think just in the littlest way, that creates an additional shift to that which you so beautifully pioneered by putting your stuff out there. And every woman that I interviewed for my book, every woman except one, I think, had never told her story.
That is so touching. That is kind of scary also at the same time. It's not, I don't feel like it's normal. It's not, it's not right. Because
No,
if
it's
if
even
they
where
haven't told their story before, it's because they didn't feel at ease. They didn't feel safe to do it. They didn't feel ready. So we can think the setting was not there for them to feel safe enough to tell their story.
yeah, it's kind of like challenging that which once you can see what's holding you back, it somehow makes it a little bit more palpable to challenge it and say, okay, this has served me, but I need to evolve into something else.
Yeah, you
Um,
know what? I was thinking about that when you were talking, and I think that could be an interesting exercise to challenge the women that are listening to us. Wouldn't it be interesting to do a vision board of where you want to go, towards which setting you would like to go, leaving the setting where you are? So, making a vision board about the setting where you are right now with strong images that represent it, and try to see towards which setting you would like to go. Um, wouldn't that be interesting? Even I would love to do it.
you know what I'm laughing about is I don't I think it was when I was newly separated. It's like I signed up for this thing that was about doing a vision board because I didn't know what it was and I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. And so I went and I was like, okay, I'm not artistic. So when you say, oh, we'll do this, we'll paint something, I'm like, no, I can't do that. But I can cut out images from magazines. And that the images that I put up there, as I look at it, they all had, I have not thought about that vision board for a long time. Thank you for that. But it's accomplished. I mean, there was books on there. There was animals on there. It was all, adventure on there. It was, yeah. Wow. You
Yeah,
can't
well,
behind your wall though in your chair, right?
right. But I want to ask you, what does your setting look like now, my friend? Can you describe it now?
Yeah, I live in I just because I'd never had before. I live in a high-rise apartment in downtown Portland. And so I am living in a tower and it's actually a brick tower.
Oh,
What I did, and this was a splurge for me because I'd been a homeowner. I'd never actually paid people rent to live in well, no, I had, of course I had, but I hadn't done that for a very long time. Um, so I'm up top and I get to look I'm in a corner and I look across the world and it has reinforced, and this is where I spent COVID, and it has reinforced for me that there's stuff out there and people out there with stories I cannot even imagine. And if I just start walking out into that world being authentically me, which, I haven't done this, but I would be interested to look at some of the old stuff that I did a long time ago, recordings. It would be a completely different person sitting there. And I would feel for her and what she was trying to convey and get words around.
Yeah.
Now she's in there. And so I feel comfortable talking to you personally. I feel comfortable talking to all of you who are looking at this for over the years and years that this will be available. Yeah.
But there's a good news. There's an elevator to get down from your tower, so you can get down fast.
I know the way to the forest so I can get to my trees. Yeah.
How interesting. And this tower doesn't feel like it's an isolating tower. It feels like looking at everything with curiosity. Feels like that.
Yeah. And I'll do the counterpoint on there too. It's like, whoa, it's such a big world out there. Because one of the realities of living the lives that we live, we've got an awful lot of influence on the directions that our life goes. And this is something I think is fundamentally different from those who have kids. We can actually design our life's plan.
Yeah.
And parents, they will always have that duty toward their children, whatever that looks like.
And that's and and that with that comes great responsibility that can feel like totally overwhelming. Fudge, I have to design my whole life and there's nothing that puts me on a track, like motherhood and fatherhood. You're up for this for life. Like you're gonna, if you're lucky, you're gonna see your children grow, and you're in for quite a few years. But for us, it comes with can be exciting, but it could be very triggering also, and very challenging thinking and overwhelming thinking about, whoa, I have to design that life out of the norm. What does that look like? Ah, I don't know.
So that I'm compelled to say that what we're doing always is making peace with the different aspects of our life story that we're only now starting to see a little more accurately reflected.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting to get over it, you know, and I actually do consider myself more child-free now than childless.
Mhm.
I can go back to the childless pain in my heart as easily as I can go back to myself being a young woman, not thinking it was going to be for me. I mean, all of those people are part of who I am now, and I own all those people now in a way that I don't even have to share as much. I just know it's there, and I wouldn't have known that unless I had to take the specific steps to look at the wall and figure out how to dismantle it. I don't have a wall anymore.
Thank goodness, because if you still had, I wouldn't have met you, my friend.
Exactly. And if you'd been still in your tower, we wouldn't have been able to see or hear you.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if you're gonna ask me the question, what does your setting look like now? God, I haven't thought of that. It feels like I'm so busy. I have a hard time to stop and just look at it, take the time to look at it. I just, You know what? What comes to my mind is that right now I'm sitting in front of my window and there's an apple tree just taking all the window space. That's all I see, green. And then it just led me to, oh, yeah, I just remembered that I had planted a tree in a park of my city to in a grieving ceremony that I did with my parents and my sister a while ago. And I had written all the reasons why I wanted to be a mother and what I was letting go, and I just placed this piece of paper under the roots of my tree and planted my tree in a park in my city with my family. So then I guess it's about territory of legacy. Um, what is my living, breathing legacy? And I just think it's about sharing, it's about giving, it's about listening, it's about taking care of what is alive, human, and suffering, including me. Trying to, yeah, because if I take care of my own suffering, then I can be there to hold others' suffering too. And in a way of to be there to help them grow, like this tree that's growing in my park, and like this tree that's growing and ever changing with every season in front of my window, and just trying to accept the fact that we're always evolving, that I'm always trying to do my best, and that sometimes I lose leaves and sometimes I lose branches, and sometimes I have squirrels on me and birds, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed, and trying to accept like all this that is going on around life and around this image of the tree that, that that can get very calm at sometimes when it's, the weather is peaceful and sun is out, and or feel washed away by rain or cold, or so this is the I think this is my setting right now, which is growing, growing tall like a tower, but is alive. Actually, it's not stone. It's alive.
It's your tree, and you're nourishing it with the fruits of the things that you're doing and putting down roots. And I just have to say, for people who are watching us right now, I am so tickled. You, Catherine-Emmanuelle, did exactly what you do so well. You show us the evolution of how to actually do something lifetime. You asked yourself, I don't know what my setting is now. I was wondering if you were going to ask me that, but I wrote that, and then you went through the conversation with yourself and you identified what it was.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. And this is what we're inviting you to do. Like I didn't have it figured out. I'm just, like you said, I'm just doing what we talked about doing live in front of you, and I guess it shows you that it's accessible to you to try to see what resonates. And it could be through talking with someone, it could be through writing, it could be through doing collage, vision boards. It could come up while you're walking or jogging, or, these visions of where you're at can come up at any point, and where you feel like when you're ready to plunge into that space, just please know it's available to you. And yeah, it can, I think it can be helpful to ask yourself, well, where was I 10 years ago? What did it look like? Where am I going? Where am I at right now? And I do hope this discussion we had together today, Kate, um, will help childless women get some clarity, and maybe get help them refocus on where they're trying to find where they're going and where they were before, and just also recognize the path and they have been on, and the changes they made that were made through time.
Yeah, and it may come all flooding in at once, or it may be just this little drips and
Yeah.
drabs of what could be or what was that is no longer there.
And
So
you know what? I get what I feel like doing right now is, if you feel like sharing your images after this talk with us, please do share them. So you can write to me at ce.delille at femmesansenfant.com. And Kate, where can we write to you?
I'm at kate@katekaufmann.com. And do you have an example of such an image, perhaps?
No, I don't want to give an example because I don't want to implement images in other women's head, because I think it's very personal. So then my image was, we started by talking about my tower, and then I said I went on a hike in the dark and looking at the stars, and then that led me to my tree of belonging, growing. That is where I'm at right now. So you see this evolution that we just talked about on this conversation, and you started by being behind a wall, and then dismantling it.
And re-putting it together and then just saying, this is not serving me anymore. I'm getting tired of trying to climb over it or go all the way the long way around.
Yeah,
I think, wow.
yeah. So we invite you to take a look at your life, and if you feel like it, please share your images with us. It will be very inspiring for us to read you. We can't wait, actually.
So much for tuning in to have a little chat with us this day.
And thank you, Kate, for your passion, presence, wit, and playfulness as usual.
Je t'adore.
Same here. Take care, ladies.